So this past Saturday morning, I was sitting in my home office listening to a CD that I recorded a few days earlier on strategy. And I was just checking it to see if I needed to make any changes. My 6-year-old son, Luke, came into the room and he plopped down on the big brown leather chair. I watched him listen for a couple minutes and finally I had to ask, so Luke, what do you think of Dad's new CD on strategy? And he paused for a minute and he said, sounds like church. Church? How is it like church? And he said, well, there's a lot of talking, I don't understand most of it, and I think I'm getting sleepy. And in fairness to Luke, I think strategy can often be that way, but hopefully not tonight. We've all heard insanity defined as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. In business, insanity is doing the same things in the same ways year after year after year and expecting miraculous new growth. I call it the organizational lobotomy. Working without really thinking about the work we're doing. Are your managers highly strategic, or are they constantly fighting fires and being reactive like bumper cars at a carnival? Is strategy in your company an annual 2-day pilgrimage to an off-site meeting at the Holiday Inn? Or is it a daily dialogue? A simple but often overlooked premise in business is new growth comes from new thinking. New growth comes from new thinking. Expecting new growth for your business without new ways of thinking about it is like a farmer expecting new crops to grow without first planting the seeds. I developed a simple framework to help managers at all levels of an organization think more strategically about their business in order to profitably grow it. And that framework is simply 3 A's: acumen, allocation, and action. The first A is acumen. All good strategy, to Scott's point, starts with an insight. An insight is when we take 2 or more pieces of information that are different, we combine them in a unique way to come up with a new idea or new approach to the business. The second A is allocation. Allocation is our ability to focus resources by making trade-offs. Successful strategy is as much about what you choose not to do as it is about what you choose to do. And the third A is action. Action is our ability to focus on what's important to our business and not get distracted by the urgent emails and voicemails that continually take us off course. So let's take a look at each of these 3 A's a little bit more and give you some questions to think about tomorrow morning. Now, there's an important distinction between experience and expertise. Several years ago, Pfizer, which is the largest pharmaceutical company in the world, was looking to replace their CEO. They had 3 internal candidates. 2 of the candidates had 35+ years of pharmaceutical industry experience each. The third candidate had only 4 years of pharmaceutical industry experience. So whom did Pfizer choose to run its $40 billion company? Jeff Kindler, who had only 4 years of pharmaceutical industry experience. Stanley Eikenberry, who's a board member at Pfizer at the time, was quoted in Business Week as saying, "We had a feeling the external environment for pharmaceutical companies is changing rapidly. Jeff is a very strategic thinker." Just because I have 42 years of experience breathing doesn't necessarily mean I'm getting better at it. Unless we're actively generating insights or learnings about our business, we are simply not taking full advantage of our experience. Insights are the bridge from experience to expertise, and strategic thinking is how we build that bridge of insights day in and day out. Why is strategic planning a bust in most organizations? Because it doesn't start with insights or fresh thinking or new ideas. To Adam's point earlier, if we're just regurgitating the budget numbers from last year and using the same old tactics, surprise, incremental growth at best. A strategic plan without insights is like a car without an ignition key. neither is going to take you forward. Question for tomorrow morning. What are the top 5 insights, customer, competitive, marketplace, that are going to drive your business strategy in 2010? The second A is allocation. Allocation is our ability to focus resources by making trade-offs. You look at companies like General Motors, Lehman Brothers. Today, more than ever, having the most resources guarantees nothing. It's how we allocate those resources that truly matters. We've mentioned Apple here earlier. Their CEO, Steve Jobs, was quoted as saying, "People think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on." But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that there are. And he gave a powerful example. He said years ago, people at the senior level in Apple came to him and said, "Steve, we should do a PDA, a personal digital assistant, like a Palm Pilot." He looked at the market and saw that about 90% of people who used PDAs at the time took information out of them and used them out of the office. His insight was that in a few years, cell phones or smartphones would be able to accomplish that same task. So despite a lot of people within Apple saying, "This is a great idea, we're going to make a lot of money," he said no. He said if they would have invested at that time the resources to do a PDA, they would have not had the resources to do the iPod or the iTunes Music Store. Apple's success is built just as much on what they've chosen not to do. Key question for tomorrow. What are your top 5 nots? What are the key things that you're choosing not to spend time on, not to spend budget on, and who are the key customers you're choosing not to serve because they don't bring the most value? The third A is action. Action's our ability to execute strategy. One of the most basic obstacles to good strategy execution, and I was talking with Jeffrey in the back about this earlier, is people not understanding the difference between goals and strategy. And surprisingly, it often starts at the top. For example, imagine for a moment Bob Barker hosting a game show called What's Your Strategy? Okay? Featuring executives from leading companies. Now, based on their actual quotations from business publications, I think the game show would go a little bit like this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of Wendy's, Miss Carrie Anderson. All right, Carrie, for a lifetime supply of chocolate Frosties, what's your strategy? 3 key strategies are to strengthen core business, execute new initiatives, and reduce costs. I'm sorry, but those aren't strategies, they're goals. Thanks for playing. As a lovely parting gift, we have a Happy Meal from McDonald's. Since they've been eating your lunch seems only fair, you get a little of theirs. Our next contestant hails from Macy's department store, the company that decided to scrap the historic Marshall Field brand name after the acquisition. I didn't do it. Please welcome the former chairman of Macy's North Division, Frank Gazzetta. Frank, we understand sales have dropped like a rock since you decided to switch the brand name from Marshall Field to Macy's. For the chance to be the Grand Marshal, Macy, of the Thanksgiving Day Parade, what's your strategy? We're trying to find the people that were customers and didn't come back. That's a major strategy. I'm sorry, Frank, but that's not even a minor strategy. It's an aspiration of sorts, but doesn't even qualify as a vision. As a parting gift, you'll receive 1 box of Marshall Field, Macy's famous Frango Mints. Enjoy. Our final contestant on What's Your Strategy is the former CEO of Pfizer, Mr. Hank McKinnell. Hank, as you finish up your tenure at the world's largest pharmaceutical company, what's your strategy? Our strategy is to survive this period, and survival is the right word. I'm sorry, Hank, but survival is the wrong word. In fact, saying your strategy is survival, when you've been swimming in more resources than most companies could ever dream of, is pathetic. We have a lovely parting gift for you, a Viagra coffee mug. That's all for this week's show. Until next week, stay strategic. So we make light of some comments that were in business publications, but the reality is, even at the highest levels, we confuse strategy and goals. Goals are what we're trying to achieve. Strategy, how we're going to get there. Goals and objectives, what we're trying to do. Goal is generally what we're trying to do. Objective is specifically what are we trying to achieve. Strategy and tactics, how are we doing that? Strategy is how generally we're going to do it. Tactics, how specifically or tangibly we're going to do it. So key question for tomorrow, go back. Look at your marketing plans. Look at your sales plans. Look at goals, objectives, strategies, tactics. I guarantee you in some of those plans, they will not be correct. And if we don't have those basic terms right, we're going to run into execution problems moving forward. So in this brief time, we've talked really about a simple framework, 3 disciplines of strategic thinking, 3 A's of strategy: acumen, allocation, and action. Managers at all levels can use these 3 disciplines to more effectively manage their business and move strategy from that once-a-year pilgrimage to a daily dialogue where we're talking about insights and we're mentally adjusting our business according to what's happening with the marketplace, the competition, and where we want to go in 3 to 5 years. So let's close, Jen, with a brief bit of history. In 1508, Pope Julius II commissioned the painting of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. He didn't choose the most experienced painter, and he didn't choose a group of painters that could get the job done quickly. He chose the one person he felt who could transform artistic insight into the expertise needed to create a masterpiece. And he chose Michelangelo. And Michelangelo said, "A man paints with his mind, not with his hands." Your business success tomorrow morning starts here. Strategic thinking will enable you to transform your experience into insights. And as we know, insights lead to expertise, and expertise will make you invaluable to your organization. Insights can indeed create a business masterpiece. The question is, will you or your competitor be holding the brush? Thank you.